Okay, welcome back, everybody. So, one of the things I would like to do with this channel, at least once a week, is to highlight either famous dissidents or ways in which people kind of fought back against government authoritarianism and control. And I wasn't really sure exactly what to talk about today, this being the first episode of this series, but I finally decided after a lot of deliberation that one of the biggest talking points these days has been the topic of cancel culture. And this is nothing new. People have been getting canceled for thousands of years, whether it be burned at the stake, having your tongue cut out, or having your books burned. Cancel culture is nothing new. So, what I wanted to highlight today was one of the methods that people use to fight back against cancel culture in the Soviet Union. This was something known as Samizdat. Now, Samizdat basically means self-publishing. I know that doesn't sound very dangerous, sounds quite innocuous, but basically what Samizdat means is when individuals reproduce censored or underground publications. This would include anything from literature, music, religious texts, news periodicals, and, of course, political texts. How did all this start? Well, first thing you need to understand is that in the Soviet Union, the government controlled all forms of media. They owned the printing presses, they even owned the typewriters. They had them itemized and inventoried and locked away so that people could not use a typewriter to type and print anything that might go against the government. So, what people ended up doing, of course, was printing their own material and passing it around to their friends. The easiest method of samizdat was, of course, just handwriting something. You have a book, you have a newspaper, something that would be considered illegal, and you just hand copy it page by page, and you hand those pages over to your friend or someone else that you trust. They can read it, and then they can pass it along, so on and so on. Another popular method was using carbon paper. And of course, there was also bookbinding. If you had a friend that knew the process of bookbinding, you could take your copies, your samizdat copy, go to your friend, remove covers from the authorized publications, and they would hide their samizdat book or samizdat texts inside the cover, rebind it so it looks like a regular authorized book when in fact it's illegal. So those were the most common ways of performing these samizdat texts. Now, some of the more popular works that were created in this way during the Soviet era, a few books you may have heard of, one being Dr. Zhivago. That was, of course, also turned into a movie. Very famous. It was illegal. It promoted the idea of individuality. And of course, the Soviet Union did not want individuality. They wanted people to think and act all the same manner. So it was made illegal in the 1950s. I believe 57, I believe it was eventually published as a samizdat work. Also, the works of Alexander Solzhenitsyn, for example, The Gulag Archipelago and A Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. These were both also published as samizdat works because they were illegal. Now, I mentioned also music. One of the methods that they used to create samizdat music that I thought was very interesting was a method of making basically bootleg records. Yeah, your bootleg mixtapes that you got, nothing new. Now, in the Soviet Union, they couldn't exactly make their own vinyl records. But what they could do, and what they did, was to take old X-ray copies, the plastic sheet that your X-ray is on, that you hold up to the light. They would take those, cut it into the proper shape, cut a hole into the middle, and then with like a type of a lathe, a special tool, they were able to cut a spiral into this plastic sheet. Then they could record music onto the plastic sheet, which in effect would be playable on a phonograph or a record player. Of course, the quality wasn't going to be very good, but if that's the only way you're going to listen to rock and roll or jazz or whatever, then, beggars can't be choosers. So, these are some of the basics of what was known as Samizdat. I just wanted to highlight a few points. Of course, if you look in the description, I have left some links to articles about Samizdat that you may find interesting. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Tune in next week. I'll have another video highlighting famous dissidents or some method of spreading dissident work. Until next time, I remain the Neo-Bohemian.